Hi, welcome to 37G. We are here today with special guest Mary, and we are here today to talk about our respective new toys. We each happen to have gotten brand new phones, one each from the three major ecosystems, Android, Windows, and Apple, and we're here today to share our thoughts and our impressions of our brand new devices. Yeah. So, welcome to our first technology-related podcast, and stay tuned for some gripping detailed analysis.
So we're here today to talk about our respective new phones. Each one of us has a phone from the from different ecosystems, different manufacturers, that sort of thing.
Ecosystem.
Also platforms.
And
Or OSs.
we want to talk about some of the pros and cons, why we bought these particular phones on particular manufacturer, particular carriers, and yeah, that's basically why we're here today.
All right.
I've got the iPhone 5, which, as most of you know, is from Apple. This is Apple's iPhone 5. It's technically the sixth iPhone in the generation, or in the series, I guess. As you can see, the shape and size overall is about the same as the 4 and the 4S. The biggest difference is just being in the height of the screen. They went from a 3.5-inch screen to a 4-inch screen, but only increasing the size vertically. Basically keeping the skinniness of the phone, just increasing the size of the screen vertically. The other difference being the colored anodized aluminum band instead of using the traditional aluminum, which carries over to the back. Now this is for the black version. The white version keeps the standard aluminum silver look, and then they have two tiny panes of glass at the top and the bottom of the phone, assumedly for better reception, but less prone to dropping and breaking, that sort of thing. I don't know the physics behind when they actually had a glass back on a 4 and a 4S, but from everything I had ever read
advanced.
is it's almost like no. I'll explain this in a second. It's almost like the whole, if you have a piece of buttered bread and you drop it, it will fall on the butter.
Yeah, it's like the inevitability that
it's
it will
like
fall
the inevitability
the way.
it will fall on the back. Most people I had ever seen with broken iPhone 4s or 4Ss, they didn't break the front glass; it was always the back glass. But I thought it was interesting, so I don't know if it was. I don't know if that was by Apple design, because it's not like they publicly said, "Hey, we designed this phone with glass on both sides, so if you drop it, it'll break the back glass." It's
magnetically polarized to fall towards the ground.
But anyways, they went with an aluminum backing, which I have to say is pretty sweet. They did like some sort of coloring anodization, which they had done on the, I think starting with the iPod Mini, and they've done with other iPods since then. So it's basically a colored aluminum. The camera in the iPhone 5 is the same 8-megapixel camera in the iPhone 4S. They do say it has a slightly better optics or deeper optics, and through some software it takes better shots. The other differences being like the headphone jack being at the bottom, and the new Lightning connector. The main benefit of which, or one of the only benefits, I guess, being that the connector can plug in either way. It doesn't have to be oriented in a specific way in order to plug in, but it still goes to USB on the other end, much like the 30-pin cables of prior connections. Minor changes to Siri, just basically supporting newer interfaces, like with OpenTable being able to make reservations. Can I get a dinner reservation near me? Let's see.
I found some tables for 2 around 6 p.m. tomorrow. Tap the one you'd like to reserve.
Basically minor changes, some of which have been pretty controversial, like the maps, the fact that they've switched, as you can see I'm searching for a Big Lots, the fact that they've switched from Google Maps to their own mapping system, and looks vastly different. The biggest benefit, at least to the end user, is that they finally support turn-by-turn navigation, something that they weren't able to do with their previous Google Maps license. That being said, it does have quite a bit of issues that the original Google Maps didn't, but obviously Apple wants to improve this over time with user data. Also, Google is in the works, or at least is trying to push out their iOS version of Google Maps as soon as possible. But that's the iPhone 5, and yeah. But that's it from a hardware perspective, and that's my iPhone.
I think you're the odd woman out here because not too many people have adopted the Windows.
Yeah, not a lot of people have liked the Windows phones. I actually had the one from the previous generation. This is the new one, or one of the new ones. This is has Windows 8 on it, and it's the HTC 8X. HTC released 2 phones, I think, an 8X, and then one that I think was maybe like kind of the second bottom tier. Then the Nokia Lumia also, I think. It released the 920. I don't know if it had a second one.
There's an 820 too.
There's an 820.
No one has recommended it.
Yeah, I haven't read anything really good about it.
Yeah.
So this is a close-up of the HTC 8X. Obviously, I have the blue color. You turn it on. This is the traditional lock screen. Obviously, you can change the background to whatever you want. It's got your time, the date, of course. If I had any, you can see I have some emails. If I had any text messages, you'd see a little text icon. Same thing if I had any phone messages. To unlock, you slide it open. You can see I have a vast array of live tiles here. Actually, I don't have that many, but again, really easy to read. You have your phone calls and then texts, emails. That's a map. That's a store. It's a fairly intuitive in terms of the icons representing your functionality. If you look at people, if you sync up with any of your accounts, like your Facebook account or anything like that, it'll automatically pull in your contacts for you. Let's see. Music, as usual, of course, you can sync your music with your computer. Add any music you want. It'll pull up whatever you've listened to most recently, including podcasts. One of the nice things about Windows 8 as opposed to Windows 7 is that you can actually change the size of the tiles. For example, you see this one here. You can make it tiny, like a little square. You can open it up all the way so it's like a giant brick. Or you can put it back the way I had it originally. And that's really nice. It means that instead of being restricted to very large squares, which means you have to scroll constantly to get to what you want, you can shrink things down so you can get to as many things as you want in a single screen to kind of maximize your real estate. Really the only negative for this phone for me is the camera. I'm not really impressed with its quality. I chose this phone, the HTC 8X, over the Lumia for several reasons. First, because I use T-Mobile and they didn't offer the Nokia Lumia. So
those little things.
There's those little things, like I don't want to change carriers. But in addition to that, I actually have a coworker who got the Lumia, and it's a slab. It is bigger. Yeah, it's a brick. But I mean, I say a brick, and that kind of implies, oh, it's ugly and it's giant, and it's giant. It's bigger, and even though if you kind of pile them on top of each other, it only looks slightly bigger. It's considerably thicker. Anyway, so I got the 8X1 because I didn't have any other choice. Like I said, I did have a coworker who has the Lumia 920, and it's a nice phone. Like, the nice thing about the Lumia is Nokia Lumia. Am I saying that right?
It's called the 920.
The 920. I'll go with that. Sorry. Is it has a lot of really neat kind of doodads. It's got a bigger screen. It has wireless charging. It has a much better camera. There's a few other things that it just does better too. In general, if you read any of the reviews online, the 920 tends to get really close to the 8X, but a few points or a few tenths of a point higher. So just in general, it's considered a little bit better. I actually like this better because I don't like carrying around a really giant phone. I don't carry a purse typically. I'll carry a bag sometimes, but for me, it was really imperative for the phone to fit into my back pocket. And this, not unlike William's phone, is actually a little thinner.
Yeah.
Is a little thinner than most phones. In fact, when most people pick this up, they say, wow, not only is it really thin, which it is, but it's actually much skinnier.
And it's got the curved edges, which
and it's got those curved edges, which I like a lot. So I really like that. I like the operating system. The camera, as I mentioned earlier, kind of sucks. It is the previous one I had, the Windows 7.5 phone, was another HTC, and they haven't really seemed to improve the camera that much. It's a little bit better, but I haven't been super impressed with the number of pictures I've taken with it. I mean, like, it's not terrible, but it's not great, unlike the 920, which is supposed to have a very nice camera.
It's got floating lens and...
Yeah, it's got a lot of special...
Better software.
I forget what it's called. Yeah,
the
software.
To compare Michael's phone, the 920, and the iPhone 5 are 3 of the phones that are supposedly have the best cameras in the phone market. If you compare from each ecosystem, like they're at the top end of what you consider a camera phone.
Although I think the 920 is pretty much given in the smartphone, the top, because the peer review software apparently is...
Well,
every
supposed to be
review
killer.
I've
It
heard
depends
is-
on the type of the pictures. For low light, yes. For highlight, they say the iPhone 5 actually does slightly better. At least according to the Verge review.
Well, it's because
that
it's
I
not
read,
doing the oversampling,
Yeah.
which is what the...
But I think the low light...
The peer review does
I
in low
think,
light.
I think the 920 was the best phone that the Verge has reviewed, at least in low light. So
Yeah, I mean, for camera, it is its probably greatest selling point. I've held one in hand, the 920, at the store. It's a beautiful phone. I mean, it's very Nokia. It's all polycarbonate and stuff, but it's heavy. And this I feel is way more comfortable. I think for the average person, it's not going to feel like a weight in your hand.
And I'm obviously ignorant to this. Does it come in more than that color? Like, is this one of the phones that...
Yeah, it's one of the phones. It's got a nice matte back, and it comes in a black, blue, red, and this crazy like neon orange or neon green, like yellow color.
Yeah.
And it's like a rubberized texture, right?
Yeah, it's like it's mouth.
Feels sturdy in hand.
Yeah, again, unlike the 920, which actually, additionally, because it's so heavy, almost feels like it could slip out of your hand. Yeah. Just not so much. So this fits my hand
because
perfectly.
gravity is like pulling
It's
it
like,
from your grip.
take it.
Yeah.
It's trying to enter orbit, basically.
You can throw it that hard, yeah. But I like it very much, and I'm not displeased with my purchase at all.
But what kept you with Windows?
I really like the live tiles. It's really the operating system I like the most. I like the live tiles. Was never really a big fan of iPhone. I had one when it first came out years ago, of course, so I'm not really privy to a lot of the updates, but it gives you your information so quickly and so well. I think that is the one thing they set out to do with the Metro UI, and I think it does exactly that, and I really
It's
like
not
that.
Metro.
I know,
Modern.
it's modern UI now. I hate that name change, but...
I actually am curious about the live tiles because I've lived with it for a little bit with
Windows 8.
With Windows 8. I upgraded the day it came out, and I think they're onto something. And I feel that I really do. I think the tile
I just like the way you put
format
that.
is good. It's definitely on the computer side. I think definitely a work in progress. I think on the phone it's a little bit more intuitive because it is a touch interface.
The Surface is supposed to be pretty
And it's
good.
something you're going to pull out of your pocket and quickly look at, and you want to see messages, calendar, if there's any email updates, boom, it's right there. And I mean, I'm an Android guy. I was iOS for 3 years, and then I switched after the 4, originally to a Skyrocket from Samsung, which was fantastic. And then I recently switched to the Nexus 4 as of 3 days ago. There have been a lot of efforts on the Android side, particularly in the new Jelly Bean update, to make stuff more accessible from the lock screen. As soon as you turn on the phone, they've got widgets accessible now, things like that. But I think that's, in a sense, saying, hey, there's something to instant access to your information.
Gotcha.
So that's
making that
that.
parallel.
I'm tying back, saying I see that. I think they have touched on a nerve that other people are acknowledging. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
It's good to have your information in hand.
Gotcha.
So
And
I see the advantage.
I think that's where we've gotten in the mobile market. And if you were to ask each one of us individually, we're all three of us are happy in our particular ecosystem, and I think it's because they're all three mature. The evolution that's going on in each ecosystem is usually minor or visually driven, like with some of when Android made the major jump prior to 3.0 when they rolled out on tablets to now being like more like that blue font that's like really modern looking. So like most of the changes that are happening aren't huge leaps.
Well, now they're polishing.
It's usually polish. It might be a big feature update, but it's not like they have to scrap everything and rewrite because at this point, mature smartphones have been in the market long enough that when you go to a store and you're getting in one of these three ecosystems, because we probably wouldn't include BlackBerry in this,
Not until
you're going to get a good phone that does everything you want to do and does it very well.
Yep.
And the phones are fast, and as long as you're getting either a flagship phone or a phone that isn't extremely low end, then
Which
you're going to have a positive experience.
Just kind of, I think we would all agree, go flagship. Don't half-ass your phone purchase.
Yeah,
I really believe this is something that people try and say $50, and then they hate their phone. I hear it all the time, and it's not worth it. I
agree.
I see it all the time.
If it's
If
something
you're
you're planning
reading
on keeping for a
reviews
while.
and you're having to justify why you're going to not spend the extra $50, you're probably not going to enjoy your experience because all of these platforms are obviously ideal when they're powered properly. And so I think that's something that particularly Windows in the last generation with 7 was fighting against, because Microsoft had capped all of the system requirements. You had to run on a 1.4 gigahertz processor. You had to run a certain set screen resolution. You would only support, I think, up to 1 gig of RAM. And so people were, after a while, starting to be like, well, dual core and quad core are now becoming commonplace, things like that. So now they've unleashed it with Windows 8. Now you're getting dual core phones. I think they even have quad core phones in the works or already on the market. I'm not certain.
I don't know if there's any on the market, but
But they became they became, from a technical perspective, competitive with the other flagships. And all the reviews so far have said that's been a great thing. But one thing is, I think in all of our reviews, we're all reviewing the best of an ecosystem or an operating system. So take it with a grain of salt. Maybe because, your experience may vary if you go and get the cheap one.
Yeah.
Don't get the free Android phone running Gingerbread. That's stupid.
Don't get an iPhone 3GS that you find on Craigslist for $50.
Yeah, you're going
don't
to be
get
missing
any of the
contract.
old Windows phones. Don't do it.
Yeah, you're going to be missing on features. You're gonna be missing
Or
on-
go back even before Windows 5. It was a completely different conversation when Windows Mobile was around. Because when the iPhone first launched,
Let's not go to those days.
It was an interesting time because it was either the iPhone, a BlackBerry, which wasn't really a smartphone at the time, or Windows Mobile 6.5 or 6.0.
Which was them trying to shove an entire OS, like a desktop OS, onto a phone.
The iPhone mopped the floor because at the time, mobile operating systems sucked.
Well, and it also didn't try and straddle it didn't try and take a desktop OS and put it on a phone. It created its own specifically for the mobile platform.
Yeah.
And it didn't try and do what BlackBerry did, which was have a feature phone type setup and then slap on additional features. Don't add a web browser to a phone that wasn't originally intended for it. Bake it in as a feature of the actual operating system.
Back then, phone screens were this tall, and trying to cram, a laptop's worth of information into a screen this tall just didn't work.
No.
It still doesn't work. That's, if you try to find old-ass Android phones that are built like a BlackBerry, they're horrible experiences. Tell us about your new little baby there.
Right. So this came to me on Friday. Nexus 4. It's my beauty. So this is the Nexus 4, my brand new toy. What we've got here is a 4.7-inch 720p LCD display, which we can see here. I found that this is a very, very quality display. Detailing, edging is all very good. Black levels are great. Color accuracy, I think, is very good. As far as some of the physical features outside of the display, we've got a front-facing 1.3 megapixel camera, if I'm remembering correctly. We've got a notification light that's down here, which is a nice little touch. Glows the soft purpley blue when you've got notifications coming through and the phone's been locked. Ambient sensors for light are right here, and the speaker is on the top. On the back here, if we move it around a little bit, it's got a holographic etching basically into the back glass panel, which is Gorilla Glass 2, just like the front is. So very, very tough. On the front as well, if you see here, you've got a slight curvature to the sides, so your fingers basically will fall off the edge, which is really nice, because one of the cool new user elements is from the lock screen you can access your various features, widgets and whatnot. So we can swipe directly into a camera, or we can choose to swipe over to widgets you can set up to directly access from the lock screen. So here I've got texting as well as Gmail, that you can also add calendar. And I believe there are one or two other widgets that are available, and it will take you straight into those. Once we unlock, you can access your normal apps. This is nothing major from the user interface on the launch screens here, home screens, but you do have the new notification bars. Single swipe for your traditional notifications. Here I've got a card for the latest Falcons game. Go Falcons. If we choose to do a two-finger swipe, it takes you to your quick settings, where we can quickly access various wireless options, brightness options. You can also check out our user accounts, because 4.2 does support multiple user accounts now, which is going to be more useful on tablets, but still a pretty cool feature here. As far as some of the physical connections, we've got your micro USB port here on the bottom. Got your lock button here on the right-hand side with your volume commands right here on the left. And then we've got your headphone jack on the top. On the back, you do have your flush camera, which is a really nice thing. I'm glad that they went this way, which is an 8 megapixel shooter with an LED flash, and I found that it is a very quality unit. And one of the cool things we can now do in 4.2, we can access a variety of modes, including panorama, which you got here, and also the the photosphere, which is a pretty cool feature. Turns your panorama into a three-dimensional picture, and definitely adds a cool new element to your photo taking. And that's pretty much it. All in all, this is a very fast bit of hardware with a great screen and a very quality build. So definitely would recommend it. $300 off contract if you can get your hands on one for the 8 gig, and it's $350 for the 16 gig.
Well, that's $300 off contract?
Yes.
Wow, that's really nice.
Yeah, some of the people, basically, if you weren't able to get it directly through the Google Play Store, some people had issues. Right now, I don't know if this has been remedied, but at last I heard, you basically had to go to a T-Mobile store at this point, which means you're going to pay.
You pay $400. You pay
$450. I thought it was.
No, it's $500.
$500.
You pay $500 for the 16 gig, so it's a $150 premium for literally, T-Mobile is confirmed, the exact same phone. There has been no modification in software.
Or if you want to pay the $300, you're signing up for a 2-year contract.
Well, no, you can pay $200 for a 2-year contract.
Okay. For some
so
reason,
you do get a discount.
Okay.
But I think that is after a rebate.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily right up front. I think you get a $50 rebate. In any case, they sold out in like 20 minutes at every international and local release online. So it was, I don't know how I got one, but ordered it, managed to get through first try, and so far it's been great. Camera is awesome. Introduces the photosphere feature, which allows you to take three-dimensional panoramic views. So you're not just side to side, but you can build a full sphere, basically, and build a photo of the world that you're currently standing in, which is pretty cool. Very responsive. Lots of cool features, like being able to swipe directly into your photo gallery from the camera app. So if you just took a photo and you want to see what it is, swipe, and there it is. Definitely, I think, the best $300 I've spent. And that's in light of me moving away from LTE. I'm probably one of the very few users who have actually given up LTE to go back to just standard 3G. And I will say that I have not missed it at all. Now I'm in the Atlanta area with pretty good coverage. And I will definitely say my speeds went from sometimes upwards of 50 megabits per second to about 3 to 5 in the speed tests that I've run around the city. But the page rendering is so much smoother and so much faster, just from, I think, the processing power. It still seems faster. Obviously, if I went to download a file, that would not be the case. Not a feature I have missed. 3 to 4 days I've been playing with it. And I can only say that I hope to see a bit more of this powerhouse from Nexus. And I think the tide could be turning when it comes to Google trying to make a muscle into the mobile market here with the Nexus brand, because for $300 without signing up with anyone, you can bounce between carriers, go with prepaid plans to save a lot of money. This is a killer deal. So you'll probably have to wait 2 months at the least to get your hands on one with how backward they are, but I would say worth the investment given my experience with it so far. And that's about all I got.